Gathering Greenhouse, a podcast to help us grow together. I'm Steve, and we got Andrew with us today.
Excited to be here. Got some fun stuff today.
And DJ Jazzy John. Yeah.
DJ Jazzy John.
So we have a great podcast lineup for us today.
It's a great podcast. This is definitely the first time we've done any of this.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. We are not recycling material or redoing things at all.
Yeah, we didn't try this yesterday. This is first cut, first take live action. You're seeing it for the very first time.
Usually you shouldn't say that if that's what you're doing, though. I mean, this probably... probably not a good idea.
I think we should start every podcast like that.
Welcome to the Gathering Greenhouse.
This is
where we
live.
do everything wrong.
Recorded live and then edited. And
I mean, when Netflix goes live, they make sure to tell you 100 times this is live right now.
By the way, I've not enjoyed the Netflix live stuff at all. I think it's like not interesting. It doesn't make it more enjoyable. It makes it less enjoyable to me.
Yeah, because it's like not awkward. As polished.
It's awkward feeling.
Yeah,
I feel awkward for the people on it.
I've only seen one live thing and it went horribly wrong. Like they were like, "We're having problems. We'll be back in an hour." And I was like, "How about you just record this next time?"
Yeah. I'm just excited for Jake Paul to get, or is it Logan Paul?
Which one? Jake Paul,
the problem child, not beat out.
Okay, I got an opinion on all this. I feel like maybe I'm totally wrong, totally off, but this is a marketing thing where they're making Mike Tyson look like in the best shape of his life, like he could destroy anyone, and then they're intentionally making Jake Paul's stuff look like he's going to get destroyed.
I maybe. Also, everyone knows what it is. It's a young guy fighting an old guy.
More than half the age. Yeah. More than half.
So if he wins, if Jake Paul wins, there's no like pride in that. You're still
you beat up an old man.
He still loses.
But it was Mike Tyson, who has never really gone into he's not like he got in bad shape. He's always been like chiseled.
I did very little boxing. I used to box a little bit. The thing is there is such a technique to it that I'm like, Mike Tyson, even though he's old, I think he still has the technique and power, and I'm hoping he knocks him out. Like just knocks him out. We'll see, though.
I'm not rooting for violence, but a little bit.
Is this like a pay? Is it so? All the Tyson fights used to be like pay-per-view, right? Yeah. You had to get like HBO or something like that.
When I was a kid, I remember my dad ordered the Holyfield Tyson fight.
Yeah,
I can't remember how old I was, but there's guys from the church came over. It was the one where he bit his part of his ear off. Dude, that was insane.
Crazy. All right. Speaking of
boxing,
speaking of competition and championships, right?
Yes.
Andrew has a little treat for us today. So why don't you go ahead and explain kind of what you've been doing?
Yeah. So we every year we pick a tournament style thing with our youth group. And so last year we did May Madness, and we did last year was candy. And so this year we
not candy bars, just candy category.
Candy category. So it was a broad range. This year we're doing chips, but I told the teens Sunday, I was like, listen, we got to take this responsibility serious, because last year I had no idea the church was going to get into this.
How hard you were going to fail. They didn't fail. It's just, parents are not teaching them right.
That's where, and like I said, I felt like I was probably on the verge of losing my job when Skittles and Nerd Clusters were the two finalists, which I will say Nerd Clusters are like one of the more better new candies out there.
Yeah. Whoever invented Nerd Clusters should be up for the Nobel Peace Prize, because they just should, instead of bombing, they should just drop large amounts of Nerd Clusters somewhere, and everyone will be happy.
Everyone would be happy. Yeah. I mean, what is this amazing candy? But they ended up winning, but Skittles beat Reese's last year in the semifinal.
This shouldn't happen. It's kind of like wrong. Logan Paul Logan, whatever his name is, Jake Paul. There you go. It's like Jake Paul beating Mike Tyson, right? That's
exactly.
That's like
no
Nerd Clusters beating Reese's.
Yeah,
no one wants that.
No one wants that. So this year, I told them, hey, we got to take this serious, because people in our church get into this. So we figured with the podcast, we'll get on and we'll try the chips. We'll rank them ourselves, but we'll also keep you updated on what the teens decide. So when we said chips, I thought, I had a little bit of difficulty figuring out what chips we were going to do. So I went very broad range of most popular chips. So the first round yesterday, which has already brought controversy of like these two should not have been in the first round. But the first round, we have Pringles versus
classic Pringles, right?
Original versus Doritos nacho cheese.
Yeah. I did have someone ask me, why didn't you do a like is original Pringles the best Pringles, or could we have picked like pizza, or I don't know which one, like extra cheesy? I'm not sure which one.
Do you like your food without flavor or with flavor?
Well, see, this is where we came into some issues, like how, because as soon as you start getting the flavors of things,
you're just going with the classics.
It's gonna be hard to pick 8 chips once you get into like deep into the flavors.
Fair enough.
That's why I did it.
Okay, good. I'm glad we got that explanation, because I was doubting you big time yesterday. Like Pringles didn't really have a shot.
We may not even do this tournament again next year. Just bring I get more scrutinized over.
All right, here's my idea for next year. It's less of a like March Madness tournament, and we do more of a Hunger Games kind of situation. You just put a bunch of weapons in the middle of the youth room, and you say go and see what happens.
Just no food at all. Just
no food.
Hunger
just
Games,
weapons.
Just weapons.
Okay.
Yeah, instead of food, we do hunger.
Speaking of getting fired from...
Speaking of getting fired, I can see that being fun with like paintball guns and like airsoft guns.
We get the guns.
All right, so first one, I'm taking a few so I can snack on them as we go, because Pringles, I mean, this is what's good about them, right? You just grab them and they stack
that you can grab a whole stack.
I'm going to show you what's wrong with Pringles, though.
Yeah.
You have to tip it over.
And the problem with tipping it over is then the crumbs at the bottom all like just fall out as you do that.
So I would like to see, like what is the freshness level? Because maybe the can keeps it way fresher than the bag when it's been open for a little while.
Well, and to think about it too is like the bag, you need chip clips or something. For that, you just pop the top back on and you're good to go.
Yeah, which we did try the Pringles can with the Doritos one time. And let me tell you, it was not as good.
It wasn't?
No, because they're tiny. Like they give you little tiny, not Doritos in there. It's not the same.
Because you can't get the full size.
You don't get the full size.
Or maybe
it's not the same.
Doritos are just better, a little bit stale.
Yeah, I don't think so. But
here we go.
Let's try these Pringles. They're really good.
Okay. It's not tasting extremely fresh, in my opinion. I didn't get that crunch I was expecting.
It's like the can was open yesterday.
Yeah, it's like we opened this can yesterday.
Well, I think it's a good test because, most people don't crush a can in a day.
No, they don't. Well,
I was gonna say,
I'm not a quitter.
Yeah,
I don't usually take a day to do it. It's 15
I
minutes.
will say, like, things with Pringles, like, we don't keep a lot of chips in our house. But the problem is, if I sit down with a bag of chips or a can of Pringles, it's easy to finish them.
It is.
It's so easy to finish them. So good.
Okay, so
There's nothing wrong with this chip. It's like it's a fine chip. But how could you say this is better than a Dorito? I don't know.
We're gonna go for a Dorito. And
I got to get a good one.
I just tried to go for the closest to a full one as I could.
I like the folded over ones.
Yeah.
I think we talked about this yesterday, the folded over ones.
We did not talk about this yesterday. And what are you talking about?
See,
this is the first time we've done this podcast.
I'm having this problem all day. All right, let's do this.
All right. Oh, clearly.
Not as fresh, though. I mean, those are even more stale.
They're extra crunchy.
But I still think I got more of a crunch on that than
the Pringle.
The Pringle. Which should technically be more, because I don't think that one ended up getting a chip clip on it.
I will take a stale Dorito over a fresh Pringle any day.
So it was, I thought it was going to be way worse for being like basically open for a full day.
I'll tell you, like the nacho cheese on that is so good. I will say, like,
it's all chemicals.
It's all chemicals. It's not like MSG. A natural flavor at all.
Stop ruining things, Steve.
But it's so good. Your breath does take a hit with the Doritos nacho cheese.
Oh, really?
Have you ever noticed that?
Oh my goodness.
How would I note it? Like my own breath, I would like waft it as I was talking to someone, or someone would say to me, "Hey, your breath is terrible." What happened? Did like your wife say?
Yeah,
you got nacho cheese breath.
Yeah, you eat Doritos.
You also
like your
got
breath
that.
stinks.
I mean, I know you haven't always had the mustache, but that doesn't help.
That's
with
that's
nacho
the food
cheese.
Savory, you know, right there.
Right. John's he's got a pretty thick mustache right now too.
I need to shave, trim.
You know the hardest thing to eat with mustache is ice cream.
I think I came up with something brilliant.
That is a great idea.
I came up with something brilliant.
Pass that over
okay.
So wait, before you do that though, we need to pick our winner, which is I think obvious. What's the winner here, John?
Stale Doritos beat fresh Pringles. That's what I'm saying.
Doritos. And I'll tell you, the team
Clearly
yesterday
picked
Doritos. The Pringle yesterday. So the Pringle, it's already an upset round one. I'll take it up with them. I voted for Doritos.
I'm going to say this.
It is what it is.
I'm going to say this one time.
Yeah.
I'm not judging the students. They are victims of poor parenting.
Yes.
You as their parents have failed if your kid thinks a plain Pringle is better than a nacho cheese Dorito.
I wonder what my kids would say, honestly. They may, because I don't really give them Pringles that often, so they may like it just because they don't really get them that frequently.
So we're marrying these two things together and trying it right now. It tastes like a Pringle and a Dorito.
Yeah, nothing earth-shattering here.
I was hoping we could like reach out to Pringles, like you all need to collab with Doritos. But I don't know. I don't know, but that wasn't as good as I thought.
No, it wasn't.
All right.
Nice try, John.
So our second round, we now have Doritos Cool Ranch. And you gotta say it like that, Cool Ranch.
So what's interesting here is you did allow a second flavor of Doritos.
Well, because these, I mean, when you think of top chips,
yeah, you got to put Cool Ranch in
these
there.
two are the number one sellers.
Yeah.
You know? And then we have Lay's potato chip, which is the number one seller of potato chip.
Yeah.
So, which one do we want to try first? Probably the potato chip.
Yeah, let's start with the potato chip first.
All right.
Because I think it would be hard to go from the ranch
I wonder
to
which
the
one's
potato
going to
chip.
win, a plain potato chip
I will say,
or the
though,
delicious Dorito.
how impressed I am with the bag of, like, how many full chips are still left in here.
I will say, because, you know, we grew up eating generic chips.
And
we
they
didn't
were
get Lay's.
crumpled.
They were crumpled.
Oh, my wife, like, will not eat the crumbs, like the
Really?
broken up. She just
Oh, you just
refuses.
grab a bunch
so
of
I'm
those.
usually the one who has to eat the crumbs at the bottom.
That's really crummy.
Do you ever
It is
buy
crummy.
a bag of plain potato chips at home? Or is this like...
For, like, a cookout, I would do
That's
it.
what I was going to say. Like, I think you only get these for certain things, but
Yeah.
when at home chips...
But there's nothing better at a cookout to have, like, Ruffles or
It's the same
Lay's.
price to get plain Lay's as it is to get barbecue chips. I don't know.
Hey, a pulled pork sandwich with this. All right.
Ooh.
Okay. These ones that stayed very fresh.
It did. Well, you put the clip on it.
And they're packed with chemicals, probably.
Mm-hmm.
But that tasted like almost like the bag just opened.
I will say that
Very
is
crunchy.
so much better than
Oh,
this.
way better.
As far as like flavor
Way
of
better.
it being more natural potato and oil flavor.
Yeah.
Where this is like, it's,
Right.
yeah, you know.
I don't know. That was pretty good. I don't know why
What's
that
your-
came
what-
off so good.
What's your go-to Pringle flavor?
I think I like the pizza one. Honestly,
Really? The pizza ones are good. There you
Those
go.
are really good.
I think I would go with that one. But honestly, it's like it's the mood that I'm in when I'm there looking at them is what I go with.
I've been on a salt and vinegar kick recently.
Okay.
Those are
And
good.
The Pringles salt and vinegar is actually pretty good.
I love the Pringle salt and vinegar. My favorite probably are still just the sour cream and onion.
Those are good
classic.
too.
Judah
Classic.
used to love these things. Like he called them pips, not chips. Pips.
Yes.
All right, Cool Ranch. Here we go.
There you go.
This is a good chip.
Ooh.
That's really good.
So here's the thing.
These two are gonna go up against each other.
Doritos are the best chip
Yeah.
out there. You could almost do this whole tournament based on Doritos.
You could.
But
Actually, that's a good
somehow
idea.
We lost them to go out in the first round.
That I actually thought about that, just making it Dorito madness, because there's so many good Dorito flavors. But yeah, that's a good chip right there. Now, what if you had to pick between nacho cheese and Cool Ranch?
I'm nacho cheese. I'm a nacho cheese
Cool
person.
Ranch for me.
I'm a nacho cheese
I love
person.
Cool Ranch.
It depends on the day. Like there's just days that you just eat Cool Ranch.
I'll
and
tell
days
you
you
what-
need nacho.
What my problem with it is that I don't know. I get this like if I eat a bunch of them, I get this weird like aftertaste that like sticks with me for a while, and I'm not a big fan of like having the
smell.
flavor like linger in my mouth for a really long time. So that would be my reason. I don't know what it is. Some ingredient in there.
Now, I will say the Doritos Locos Tacos, the Cool Ranch ones, I pick over the nacho cheese ones. The Cool Ranch as a
The
taco.
flavor's a little bit more intense on those, I think, than the nacho.
Where the nacho cheese ones almost is too powdery. Like
Yeah.
it almost has too powdery.
So what's the winner then?
The winner is the Cool Ranch. So I said that they were going to go up against each other, but I forgot. Nacho cheese lost. So their semifinal will be the Pringle versus Cool Ranch
Okay.
Doritos.
Kids, you have a chance right now to make a right decision and a wrong decision. Please make the right decision and pick Cool Ranch Doritos.
Well, next week we get into the spicy round, so we'll be back next week with some of the spicier chips that are on the opposite side of the bracket for the next leg of the competition.
Okay.
Oh, the computer's coming out.
Computer's coming out.
Computer's coming out.
So, for those of you who come to the gathering, you know that we are just finishing up our Life's Biggest Questions series, which I've really enjoyed. I like those type of series coming off of Easter. But we're finishing it up, so we thought it would be fun to go into some of life's biggest questions.
Life's biggest questions.
Yes, these are the biggest questions.
And I just now noticed your name on here is Steven.
Yeah.
You have it as Steven. So
right.
but you go by Steve always.
Correct.
Okay.
Only my family calls me Steven, but I thought about if I ever moved anywhere, maybe I might
Start over as
switch. I might
Steven?
start over as Steven. Who knows? It just makes me sound a little bit more distinguished, maybe.
I don't know. Like
No? John saying no.
Steve Jobs.
The difference between Steve and Steven is not going to be the make or break
it's
it
like
for you,
it's
Steve.
like when you put on a pair of glasses, all of a sudden you look a little bit smarter.
Is
like,
that how they spell Steven though? With the V
With
E
the V.
N, not the PH.
Yeah, those are
you're-
imposter
so you're-
Stevens.
those are imposter Stevens.
you should create a
He-
Step in.
if you don't want to get stoned, have the V.
you should create a whole character
Bible
named
jokes.
Steven, and he wears glasses, wears a scarf, and like
Yeah.
a sweater vest.
I like a
and-
persona. Yeah.
You should be a lot more. Who's
It's
more
like-
hip, Steve
it's-
or Steven?
Like Steve Urkel when he was Stefan.
yeah.
Stefan. All right. Anyways,
Yeah.
I just saw it. I was like, Steven.
Yeah.
Now I'm
Anyway,
gonna start
we
calling you
gotta-
Steven. Would you be upset with that?
No, I don't care. I really am not offended. I answer to anything.
Okay.
I'm not a person who gets offended at all.
You heard
by
it here. Steve or Steven answers to anything.
Literally, hey you.
Yeah.
I don't care at all.
Connections boy.
Yeah, I don't care.
Connection boy.
Don't care at all. It doesn't really.
right.
I will just answer and move on. Okay. So, what we did was just to kind of make this a little bit fun. We asked AI what are life's biggest questions, just to see, because AI is essentially just
This is so
a
much
conglomerate.
irony.
So much, yeah, it is irony.
Yeah.
Which is fun. The fun
Is
part of it.
Is this AI's life's biggest questions, or is this AI?
Well,
This
if
is
you
AI's
wondering-
life's biggest question. What is life?
If you believe what big tech is telling you, there's just a conglomerate of all the information that exists.
if we trust
then that's what,
big
yeah.
tech.
We could ask,
It's totally
What do
not
you
plotting
think?
to overthrow
what
humanity.
will happen to you when you die?
Like
No.
back in the early 2000s, there were so many movies that started just like this, iRobot. Will Smith had to defeat all the artificial intelligence.
That was a good movie.
Terminator, The Matrix.
All
Bug's
right.
Life.
Bug's Life.
Just kidding.
I was like, wait a second. Was there something in Bug's Life I missed? Is there a plot twist to that?
Ants was a better movie for
Yeah.
sure.
All right, so I picked a few questions here for us to go over for us to answer, and the first one here, which is also the first one that ChatGPT came up with, is what is the meaning of life?
What is the meaning of life?
This
Philosophy's great question of what is the
Yes,
meaning
it
of
is.
life? Yeah. So, are you wanting the church answer here?
Yeah, I think.
kidding.
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
kidding.
when we're going through life's biggest questions, I think how does the church respond to those questions? Do we have an answer that is different than society might say, or how do we answer that question?
Yeah. Well, I've worked with youth for 10 or 12 years. I always forget. I just say 10 or 12. It's somewhere in between there. I always say, God created you.
Mm-hmm.
He formed you and he created you. God's the creator of everything, but he created you with a specific purpose that it's individual to you. No one
Yeah.
else has that purpose. And the first sole purpose that each person has is the number one thing is to be in a relationship with God.
Yeah.
Because I said, since God created everyone, and we're made in his image, we know that God's also a relational God because we are relational people.
Right.
So God created us to be in that relationship, and then for us to be in a relationship with others that points back to God, our creator.
So, would you say that the meaning of life is to find your purpose? Or would you say
the purpose of life is your purpose?
Yeah, that's what. So I agree with you.
Yeah.
But would those two things be linked?
I think so.
Okay.
God has
The
a
meaning
purpose
of
for
life
each
and the
every
purpose
one.
of life similar.
Like I said, I would say your very first purpose is to be in a relationship with God, and it's hard to determine what your purpose from God is if you're not closely connected with Him.
And if you don't believe a God exists, if you base your purpose on there's nothing more than what we see here, it's hard to find a purpose, because purpose is whatever you make
You
of
want it to be.
Right.
Exactly. And that's we see that in culture today of even with like morals.
Yeah.
Like, well, you say it's bad, but I don't think it's bad. It seems fine to me. And so if you
my
don't,
truth and your truth.
Exactly, your truth and my truth. If we don't first have the standard of God is the creator, and since God is the creator, He is in charge.
Yep.
If you don't see that, then it's easy just to say, well, I get to determine, objective morals.
My life.
Yeah. So you might say to someone who is asking a question like that, maybe a young adult, maybe a high schooler, to like say, hey, the first thing you have to answer is, how did you get here?
Yeah.
You can't really find out what your true purpose in life is until you find out who put you here or what put you here.
You have to first surrender that fact of, if you believe that as God, like we said, we know that God, the truth of God had created the world. You have to surrender that. And as soon as you surrender that, then everything else falls in the line. Because if you surrender that and know that it's your truth, then everything comes from that.
Yep.
So,
John, do you agree?
Totally agree. I was just thinking about this. You can't have purpose outside of that which is assigned by a creator, right? So Doritos were created for a purpose to be eaten, right? And it's nothing self-generates its own purpose. All purpose is assigned.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to have a purpose for your life without acknowledging that you were created by God.
Yeah. That's
with
deep
intent. That is deep
thought right
there.
That's
a good
That's
clip.
some cool ranch
clip
stuff
that
right
one
there.
out there. That goes straight to TikTok.
Doritos cannot come up with their own purpose.
What do we call that? Snack cake apologetics or snack size apologetics. It's a good. I think there's a book in the making here.
Well, it's like every youth pastor just creates everything into an illustration. Like, take this Dorito.
Yeah.
You are this Dorito.
And you stretch this Dorito illustration into a whole series of books.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to be a Dorito or do you want to be a Pringle? You decide.
We need a TED Talk. Okay, question number 2. Is there a God?
Yes.
And why
Next question.
Absolutely.
But why? Okay, why is this question important? Why is it?
Well, it goes back to the same thing as like if you don't first surrender that, because the problem is so many Christians get upset with the world, what we call the secular world. It's like we can't get upset with them because they're not first on that basis of that there is a God.
Yeah.
Right. And once you understand that there's a God, then everything else falls into place. You either make the decision, yes or no, am I going to follow? Am I going to repent? Whatever it is. So is there a God? Well, Romans 1 says that everyone was without excuse, because as you look around at the world, you see His invisible quality. So we have the general revelation of God and special revelation of God. The general one is look around you and even look at you and me. Like I can look at you and say, there's obviously an intelligent creator, because I can't imagine this came just out of nothing.
Yep.
Even just like you go to the Grand Canyon, you can't look at it and be like, wow, I can't believe like 2 non-living molecules exploded one day and this is here, right? So it's easy to look around. Even before like the Bible is widespread and you go to these tribes, like they obviously knew there was something. So they were trying to figure out what.
In all corners of the earth.
Yes.
Had a system of worshiping a God.
Yes.
And they didn't communicate to one another. They all came up with that same concept and idea.
Just by looking around at the general.
I think we often are, it's like, it takes so much faith to believe in a God. And I'm like, no, it takes a lot of faith not to believe in God, right? Like it's
a creator, right?
A creator, yeah. To not believe that this, somebody did this. There's too many little things that had to work just perfectly for life to even exist. And So I'm like,
Yeah.
that's why I believe I don't have enough faith not to.
It takes more faith because I'm like, even like if I have a handful of paper clips and drop them, like, what are the chances when I drop these that they're all going to be connected?
Yeah.
Well, no chance at all. Well, there's a better chance of that happening than two non-living things creating everything here on Earth. But you have more faith in that than me dropping the paper clips and all of a sudden they just connect with another. So
But if you dropped them enough times,
I know the law of probability.
That's your truth. My
Okay.
truth is anything can happen, you know.
yeah, and I think
Who's
that like
to say they're connected or
yeah.
not?
So the examples that I like are the ones where you look at a painting and you don't question a creator. Obviously, somebody painted that. There was a painter who came up with the idea and did it. It didn't just manifest itself.
I don't know. I've seen some art that I'm pretty sure they just threw paint at a wall.
and then you have the idea of like walking through the woods and coming across some wood that has been put together in a fence. You don't say, well, that naturally happened. You would automatically say there was a creator who put those things together that cut the wood down and formed it and put it there. And it's the same thing when we see creation that is so perfect, so organized, works together so well. Like we have a sun the exact distance away from us that gives us energy.
If it was a little bit closer, we'd be burnt up. If it was further, we'd freeze to death.
There's just too many things that we'd have to say just magically happened over a span of time for the intricacies of creation to take place, that it's just really hard for me to be able to believe that it just all was a random chance. It's too perfect to say there wasn't a creator.
Yep.
Yeah,
John is very passionate about this.
totally. Yeah, definitely.
All right, so the last one, because I think we should maybe just do three here.
right.
The last one, there's several on the list here, but I was thinking that we would talk about what happens after death. I think that's a really big question.
Yeah. I can actually answer this.
Okay, what happens?
Okay, after somebody dies, we usually have a funeral, and there's
Okay.
a period of time where we grieve. Then there's a little bit of a party kind of thing. It's weird. And that's pretty much it.
Wait, you have parties? Like, is there a piñata or
Have you ever been to a wake?
no?
I've not been to
They're
it.
not. I don't know if party's the right word, but there's
Okay.
food.
More of like a
Okay.
celebration.
A celebration.
Celebration of
Okay.
life. Yeah.
Celebration of life.
Because it's not a party unless there's a piñata. I mean, obviously.
So what happens after death?
Yeah.
That's one of those questions that even within the Christian realm, people have different viewpoints. But ultimately, we all believe that there'll be a day of judgment.
Yeah.
When does that happen? But there'll be a day of judgment where you get judged, and you're either going to spend eternity with God in heaven,
Right.
or eternity away, apart from God, separate from God, which is hell. It's a reality for all of us. No one defeats death except for one person. He died and then he defeated it and came back, and that's Jesus. And the only way that we get to spend eternity with God is accepting Jesus as our Lord who defeated death, that we get to have that eternal life.
Well said, Andrew. I think to me this question is like, so universally interesting because we all die, right? No matter if you have a lot of money or you have a little money, we're all going to face death at some point. So, and it's scary for a lot of people.
Well, even to think like eternity.
Yeah.
Like think about eternity like forever. I remember I had a friend,
a
pastor that I worked with one time, and he said sometimes he'd lie awake and just the thought of eternity, like it would like. He said, I have to get up and start running.
Great.
In the middle
Now
of the night.
now I'm going to keep thinking about
like
this.
The idea of eternity. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like people who don't.
What's that one where it's like 1,000 elsewhere? 1 year in like his house is 1,000 elsewhere.
Better is one day in your
one day. Yeah.
Better is one day in your house
Than 1,000 elsewhere.
than 1,000 elsewhere.
Is it really though? Is it really?
Can we
That's a deep theological
Can we
question.
sing that this Sunday?
Is it really better one day than 1,000 elsewhere? What if that 1,000 elsewhere was like something really amazing you've always been hoping to do?
Steve, I think you're getting into very dicey territory here.
Oh, okay. Let's back that. We're gonna need to edit that out.
And we're back.
It's funny because a lot of people contemplate on like what hell is, and sometimes like trying to figure out what it is. And I'm like, I'm like, everyone's gonna get judged and stand before God, and all of a sudden you're gonna realize this guy's holy and like he's perfect, and then they have to be separated from him. I'm like, that should be torment in itself. Of like, I don't get to spend eternity with God, like that's torment in itself of like the rest of my life, I don't get to be with him anymore.
Yeah.
I also just don't do well with heat, so hell sounds pretty bad.
Yeah.
This sounds terrible. But, I mean, I think we kind of have to also mention how some churches also present the concept of death as a means to convince people that they should accept Jesus.
Quick story, 'cause I thought about this yesterday. Have you ever been to one of those judgment houses?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We had a real big one by us where they, like, brought in a whole plane and, like...
Susie lied before she died!
Yeah, well, that's exactly how, in West Virginia, there was a big one, and they had a house on fire with the fire department outside. It was this huge thing. And so, you go to Judgment Day, and... they go to hell, they go to heaven, and so you go to hell.
Wait, they caught the house on fire just like once, or they did it multiple times because they had a bunch of people?
pyrotechnics inside this house, so you had to go outside.
Okay.
And so
We were
basically,
inside the house.
There must have been so much liability. I guess it was West Virginia though, so
it's wild.
West Virginia.
They call
they
it wild
literally
and
caught
wonderful
the
West
house
Virginia.
on fire while the people were in there, and they didn't tell them.
We had to
before.
wait.
This is what hell will be like.
We had to
They're
wait.
like The Office when they're like trying to get
Today,
out.
smoking's gonna save
Ryan
lives.
started the fire.
So, anyways, it's the whole idea. There's these two teens. One went to a Bible study. One went to a party. They both died.
Oh my God, that's just so much
both
propaganda. Where it's
died.
like, oh, you chose a Bible study over a wild
Got
party.
saved that
Those are
night.
only two choices in
But
life.
here's what I thought was hilarious. So they said, like, they obviously go to judgment. One goes to heaven, one goes to hell. You go to hell first. And it's like, it's a really big church that did this. It's like, smells like sulfur. It's red. And there's like these big, hairy guys yelling, screaming. I had like almost the entire high school football team. We get into heaven, and heaven's only like the youngest girls up there, and I just see their look on their face like, yeah, I want to be here. And I'm like, no.
Gosh.
And all of a sudden, like, they're all like, I want to give my life to the Lord. And I'm like, I'm never doing
They're
this
like,
again.
but so when the casting call comes from the church, are they like, you need to be in hell? Sorry,
Sorry.
you got a face for hell.
you gotta face for
You
hell.
know what, Andrew? You're much better suited for hell. I know you want to be in heaven, but I think you're gonna do a little better in hell.
Yeah, you're gonna present a lot better down there. So
You're gonna nail that. I believe in you.
But then they took us to
I'm
a room.
uncomfortable.
Took us to a room and were like, you could die on your way home tonight, like after this. So like, where do you want to go? And I was just like, okay.
And the band started to play.
And the band started to play. So yeah, I don't see that scaring people into a relationship with Jesus
No.
as the greatest long-term.
Right. What they say is, what
lasting-
you win them with, you win them too.
Yeah.
Right? Is that the saying? Did I say that wrong?
What
you win them
with is what you have to keep them with.
Okay, there we go. That's another way to say it.
Yeah.
I think my way was a little better, but you know. No.
They're cool and they're fun, but like when you use it as then at
Like-
the end we want to like scare you into like going into this room saying a prayer, and also we have a baptism set up outside.
Well, because were you using? You know, what were you using to process the idea of getting into a relationship with God? If it's fear based, then you're going to view God as this, evil overlord who has a bunch of rules. So if you accept Christ with that point of view,
Yeah.
that's going to be. Kind of your interpretation of God when you're younger.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And it's not to say that it can't work. I'm sure there's people who've started
changed
to
their
relate
lives.
and changed their lives.
Yeah, right.
It's just probably not the greatest tactic.
Right.
You are rescued to something and rescued from something, but we can't overemphasize the from.
Right.
And miss what we're being rescued into.
Good way to put it, John.
Yes.
Now we don't have to go back and delete everything we just said prior.
Redemption. Speaking of redemption. You can be redeemed right now if you give your life to Jesus.
If you don't want to go to hell, accept Jesus. That's the moral of this story.
Moral of the story right there.
All right. Well, thanks for spending some time with us. Great job, Andrew and John. And
this went really well.
It did.
I'm glad we did this twice.
We did.
Yeah,
We
I
did.
like this. I like this one.
Let's do it twice every week. We'll see you back here next week. Hopefully we don't do it twice.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.